And hello, my name is Kevin, and in this video we're going to talk about installing CentOS 6.2 into VMware Player on Windows 7. Imagine that you have a computer sitting in front of you, and it's a brand new shiny computer, no operating system on it yet, and you have a DVD drive that's open, and you have in your hot little hands, you've got a DVD of the CentOS operating system. So what we're going to do is what you want to do is you want to take that DVD, put it in the DVD player, close it, boot the computer on the CD or the DVD, launch the installer, and install the CentOS operating system that's on the DVD onto the hard drive so that we have it booting to the hard drive in CentOS. So that's what we're going to do, but we're going to do that virtually. Okay, that's what VMware Player allows you to do. It acts as virtual hardware so that you can load not just CentOS, but you can load any operating system that you want on there. So there's a couple of things that we need. One is the VMware Player software. The other is an ISO, which is basically a file that's going to look to the virtual environment like a DVD disk. Okay, so the first place that we're going to go is we're going to go to VMware site, vmware.com/product/player. And once that we're there, we can see a little bit of information about VMware Player, but click on the downloads, and all you have to do is click on that, and let's click that away. And we're going to scroll down a little bit to here, VMware Player. Go ahead and click on that. Let's go ahead and say yes there. And click on Download VMware Player for Windows. And we're going to click Run. I'm going to pause the video here and let it download, and we'll continue. Okay, so now that it's downloaded, it's asking you, hey, do you want to go ahead and allow this program to make changes? What it's going to do is it's going to install virtual interfaces for the virtual networking that's inside of VMware Player. So just go ahead and click OK, and the installer will start. You're going to want to go ahead and just click Next, click I accept, Next, Next. If you want updates, go ahead and keep that checked. I always uncheck this because I don't like information going out that I don't know about. I don't need a desktop, but I will keep a Start Menu Programs folder. And then continue, and it will finish the install. Okay, now that we're done installing VMware Player, we need to download the ISO. Now this will take a little bit of time, but go here. This is a mirror for older versions. Right now, at the making of this video, CentOS 7 has just come out, or came out a few weeks ago, I guess. And 6.2 is considered an older version, but this is what we're going to be using in the class. So go to this mirror. It's http://mirror.syntOS-vault/distributions/CentOS-vault/6.2/ISOs/x86_64. And when you input that into your browser, you'll see a list here. You need to download this one, CentOS 6.2 x86-64, that's a 64-bit version, DVD1, and this is an ISO. So this is that image that I was talking about that's going to look like to the virtual environment like a CD or DVD ROM. Okay, so now I've done that already, so I'm not going to make you sit through a download of that. I've already downloaded this. So let's go ahead and fire up VMware Player, and we will go ahead and click Create New Virtual Machine. So here it's going to give you a little blurb about downloading Workstation 10. With VMware Workstation, there's a lot more things you can do. Then you can play with the networking and create more complex network environments. You can also create VMs for, say, ESXi, which is their infrastructure environment. And there's just more things that you can do with it. That is a paid version, so do not download this if you don't want it. For our purposes, VMware Player is going to be plenty. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click Install the operating system later. You can install it this way, but I don't want to use this because it kind of skips over some things that we're going to need later on in the class. So go ahead and click I will install the operating system later. Now, the next screen is selecting the type of operating system. So we're going to select Linux here, and in the version, we're going to scroll up to CentOS 64-bit. Okay, click Next. We can name the machine that we want. We can name it whatever we want. Kevin's CentOS. That sounds like a good name. Here's where we're going to specify how much hard disk capacity we want to give this virtual machine. The default is fine. Okay, you're not probably going to need more than that. Now, if you were going to put this in production, you need to reconsider that and determine exactly how much hard drive space you need. But for our purposes, the default is just fine. We're going to go ahead and click Finish. Now, we're going to right-click on here and open up Settings. There's a few adjustments we need to make. One is the processors. If you have a multi-core system, you'll want to give this 2 processors if you can. I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 processors. Also, with the memory, we want to increase that to 2 gigs if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. It will run with 1 gig of memory. That's pretty much the minimum I recommend running it. 2 gigs, though, will make it run nice and smooth. Okay? So we click OK here, and we're ready to go. Oh, wait. One more thing. Let's go back into Settings. And we need to select the ISO, the most important thing. So go ahead and click on the DVD, click Use ISO Image File, and then you need to browse wherever you downloaded that image file. Me, it happens to be under the shared folder for ISO 6.2. So once we select that, you'll see that the ISO path is here. Make sure that it's there. Now we can click OK. And now we can go ahead and click Play for the VM. Now this is going to give me something that you're probably not going to get. What this is saying is that, hey, this whole environment that I'm showing you, I'm actually on a Macintosh, and I'm virtualizing this Windows 7 environment. And inside that, I'm going to virtualize the CentOS environment. So basically what it's saying is that, you know, although you can do this, I wouldn't recommend this as a way of working. The performance will be degraded. But for our purposes of demonstrating how to install this, this is going to work just fine. So I'm going to say OK there. Now, so now what it's asking me is if you want to download and install. I'm going to click Remind Me Later because we haven't installed the system yet, so we're not really ready to do that. Once you click inside this window, you'll notice that I move my mouse and I don't see anything. If you hit Control Alt at the same time, the Control key and the Alt key at the same time, you'll be able to break out of that. Remember, this is kind of an environment. It thinks it can only see within the boundaries of its environment. So when you click in there, the mouse will disappear. Don't freak out. What you will find is that you can use your arrow keys up and down. The first thing that we want to do is do an install. So it's going to be selected and just hit the Enter key. And that will start the booting process. And eventually use your arrow key and hit the right arrow key, and go ahead and skip. This is just checking. It's going to go ahead and scan the disk, and that's just unnecessary. The install disk. We don't need to do that. Now, if you're running an actual, physical disk, it might be a good idea to scan that and make sure it's in good condition. Okay, so this is what the installer looks like. Notice that I can't break out. Again, if I want to break out, I hit Control-Alt, and I can break out. I can move the window around, whatever. If I want to go back in there, I need to go ahead and click inside the window, and then I gain control of my mouse again. So let's click Next. We're going to select English, US English, because that's what I speak. And we're going to go ahead and keep basic storage devices here and click Next. And here, it's basically saying, hey, if you make changes, I'm going to delete all this data that's on here. And I'm going to say, yes, discard any data, because there's really no data on there yet. Now, we're going to name our host name. Now, this is different than the VM that we named. We just named the VM whatever we named. This is going to be the actual host name as far as the computer is concerned. So I'm just going to say CentOS here. That's fine. And here I am on the left coast, so I'm going to select Los Angeles. And I'm going to select a root password. Remember your root password. Use something that you're going to remember. Now, for the purpose of the class, it doesn't have to be super secure. Definitely something you remember. But if you were to put a machine in production, you need to think about your password policies and the environment that you're in. I'm just going to go ahead and put in this password. It's going to bark at me and say, hey, your password is not good. I'm going to use that anyway. No big deal. I'm going to select Use All Space. Again, we're just trying to get this installed as simply as possible. And I'm going to click Next and then click Write Changes to Disk. So right now it's going to go ahead and create the partitions required. It's going to create some of the LVM volumes. We'll talk about that in the class, what that means and how to deal with those. So here it's asking me, what type of system do you want to install? So what I'm going to say here is a basic server. Select that and then go down here to Customize Now. There's certain software that we're going to need for this course. Click Next. Okay, so under Applications, we're going to want an internet browser. We're going to want internet applications. We don't need graphics creation tools. We don't really need Office Suite unless you want to check it out. I guess I'm going to go ahead and leave it out, but you can add that if you want. And then go under Base System. I'm looking to see what we have here. Okay, go ahead and install security tools. And that's it. Oh, networking tools. And let's see. That's it there. Under databases, select both of these. Generally, you wouldn't do something like that in a production server. Under desktops, let's select all of these. This will give us the GNOME desktop and the KDE desktop. Both of these will be used as demos in the course. Under development, we need to have the development tools, desktop platform development and additional development installed. Server platform development should also be. Eclipse here is an IDE. It's an integrated development environment that we're not going to be using. We don't need anything under high availability. If you want to install other language support, be my guest. Select it here. We're not going to be doing any load balancing, and we're not going to be doing any storage support. But scalable, we're not going to be doing any scalable file system support. Under servers, though, we will select pretty much everything in here. I think the only thing that we don't need is the network storage server. This one here, we don't need that. But we'll select everything else. Okay. Under system management, we want to select messaging client support, SNMP, and system management. And you can select this if you want. I never do. I think that this is probably this is one of the best ways to make your system really insecure. Under virtualization, we don't need anything there. Under web services, let's go ahead and select PHP support and the web server. And that's it. So let's go ahead and click next. It's going to go ahead and look for dependencies and figure out all of the things that it needs to install in the system. And after that, it will go through the installation. It'll start installing. Once you see the little bar start to go, you know that you're good. And it's just a waiting game until it gets installed. Okay, so the packages are getting installed. You should have approximately 1,561 packages. If you didn't select things or you selected more things than I did, that number will vary. So I'm going to pause the video now, and when we're done, we'll come on back and finish the installation. All right, so we have finished up copying all of the files, all the packages, to the hard disk. So now what we need to do is go ahead and reboot. Click this reboot down here, and the system's going to reboot. This time it's going to boot off the hard drive. Most of the files are there. The bootloader has been installed, and we just have to finish up a few things. Okay, so there's a few things that we have to finish. One is we have to agree to their license. It's a GPL license, meaning that it's free. Now we have to create a regular user. Now we had a root password that we set. That's for the root user. And if you don't know now, the root user is like the super user of the system. But we don't usually log in as root. In fact, we stay away from using that account as much as possible, because we could really hurt the system if we don't know what we're doing when we're using the root account. So we're going to use a regular user. Here I'm just going to create a username for me, put in my full name. You don't have to, you can put whatever you want there, and then put in a password here that you can remember. And I'm going to go ahead and click forward. And again, it's barking at me that it doesn't like my password. It's too weak, but that's okay. I just want something fast and dirty here. We're going to go ahead and set the time and date. I'm going to go ahead and synchronize so I don't have to set the time and worry about it. These are pools of NTP servers, so those should actually work fairly well. I'm going to go ahead and click forward here. Now here they're talking about kdump. Don't worry about this. I should have enough memory, but apparently I don't. Anyway, kdump is the kernel crash dumping mechanism that when something bad happens, it will dump the core, and it will basically, you can use that to determine what the problem is. Generally, that's a security issue, and you don't want to dump core unless you are debugging something. So we'll just say that's fine. Click finish. Okay, so the system is up, but we're not done. Let's go ahead and log in. Remember the password you just set. So we're logging into the GNOME desktop. You can log into the KDE desktop. It looks a little bit differently, but essentially we're doing the same things here. Okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to install the tools. Okay, so down here you'll notice install tools. So go ahead and click that. What this is going to do is it's going to load the Virtual Tools ISO into the virtual CD-ROM, and we're going to go ahead and download this because it's not available. It doesn't come with the VMware Player package by default. Go ahead and click yes. Okay. So this is where you just have to do as I say, because I realize you probably don't have a lot of experience with Linux. So this is what we're going to do. Go under Applications, go down to System Tools, and take this terminal application, grab that, and drag it up to the top bar here. Okay. Then click on it, and you're going to get this command line window. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We need to become root in order to do this. So type su dash and then type in the root password. Now this should be different than the regular user password, but it can be the same. If you use the same one, it's fine. Just type in the root password. Now what we're going to do is if you type pwd, it'll show you that you're in the directory /root. That's good, okay? So now what we need to do is we need to copy this thing over. And we're going to do this on the command line, because we need to run the command line anyway to get this thing to work. So we're going to do a cp media VM tools. Just type on this part here. Just do this. Type media / capital V, capital M, and then hit tab. It's going to put this little slash thing in the space. That's because spaces are not good on the command line. You'll learn why that is later. And then we're going to type VM tab again, and that's going to give us the file we want to copy, and then type / at the end. Make sure there's a space there, and then / and hit enter. Now when we do an ls, it's going to show us the files that are in that directory. So we need to type tar, after we confirm that it's actually there, zxvf, and then type vm and tab. Okay, the tab is tab completion. That's really kind of cool. That's a pretty long file name. You don't have to type the whole thing in. As long as you're unique, you've typed enough unique characters, you hit tab, it'll auto-complete for you. So this is going to extract that file. That's what's called a tarball, and it's going to go ahead and extract that file. If we type ls, we'll notice that there's a new directory right here. So we're going to go into that directory. We're going to type cd VM, these are lowercase now, tab, and hit enter. If we type ls to list the files in the directory, we'll see that we've got all these different things, but we've got this here, this .pl file. The .pl file is going to be the file that we want to run to install tools, VMware tools. So go ahead and type /vmware-install.pl. Now from here, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. For the most part, you can just select whatever. This here in brackets is going to be, if I hit return, that's what it's going to answer. So that's going to be the default answer. So if I hit enter, oops, hit enter, and just hit enter on all of this stuff, on all of these questions. Yes. Yes, create the directory. Yes, let's go ahead and invoke it. Notice I'm just hitting enter on all these. There might be one where I have to type no, but we'll see. Yes, I want to be able to enable that feature. Yes, I want to enable that feature. Yeah, no, I don't want to enable automatic kernel modules. Thin print fine. So again, I've just been hitting enter on all these questions. Okay, and that's it. You've installed the tools. The next thing we have to do is just type reboot. That will reboot the system. It's pretty much required so that you can get those tools working in the operating system. Now those tools, there's a lot of things that were installed there, but for the most part, it just makes this VM or this operating system play much nicer inside the VM environment, the virtual machine environment. So there's one thing more that we need to do before we're done, and that's update the system. Okay, so the system's back up. Let's go ahead and log in to our regular user account. There's one thing that we need to do, and that's update the system. So if we were to open a web browser right now, it's going to say server not found. In fact, there's no place that we can go. That means that the networking is not up and running. So we need to get that working because the updates will come from the internet. And if you don't have internet connection, this is going to be a difficult thing for you to do. But let's go ahead and quit that. And so what we want to do is see this here. This is the network manager. If we click on that and just simply click on system ETH0, that's the name of our interface, our network interface. If I click on that, what it'll do is it'll go out and it'll try to get an address. And once it does that, VMware Player will give it an address. We can click on this and we should have network connectivity. And we do. There it is. Okay. So you want to test that. Make sure that you have network connectivity before you try to update the system. Okay, so now that we've got network connectivity, let's open up the terminal app. And not the terminal app. Man, I'm so Macintosh oriented. Open up the terminal and su. Well, we don't have to do that. Type sudo yum update. Now this is where you type in not your root password, but just the regular user. Oh wait, I can't do that because I'm not in the sudo file. So we need to go ahead and su dash type in the root password. And notice when you have this pound sign, notice here you have a $sign. That means that you're a regular user. When you have a pound sign, you have your root, okay? And so now from here you can type yum update. Yum stands for Yellow Dog Update Manager. And so what this is going to do is it's going to update your repository database. And so it has to go out to the internet, and then it also checks to see what needs to be updated. And after it checks all that, after it updates the repository list and checks to see what needs to be updated on the system. Okay, so I'm getting this error. Not really sure, without really looking into it, why this is not working. But here, we're going to try this. Yum update, and then we're going to suggest, or do what it suggests, skip broken. So broken dependency, whoops, and we just want to skip that. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, good, it worked. So let's go ahead. So if you're getting that error, just put in a dash skip broken, and it'll get around that broken dependency. Now, without really looking into what that was, probably I should take some time to look into that. I probably will. Most likely, I've never seen that error, and as many times as I've installed CentOS, so not sure what happened there. Anyway, we are now updating the system. So when this is done, I'm going to pause the video, and we'll come back when we're done. Okay, so it's pretty much installed all the packages, and it's asking me to install a GPG key. And you want to say yes here, because this is going to allow us to make sure that we know that the packages that we're downloading from the repository are actually from the repository. So go ahead and select yes. And now what it's going to do is going to update all of the packages that it just downloaded. So I'm going to pause the video again, and we'll come back when this is all finished up. Okay, the installer program has done its thing. And what we probably want to do is just issue a final reboot and let the system reboot before we start using it. And that's it. That is the installation of CentOS into VMware.